Okay, hello everyone, and very warm welcome to the TransformX Webinar Series organized by iExceed, a global player in digital banking and digital transformation. Well, today's session focuses on a highly relevant and fast evolving theme, SME Banking 2.0, strategies to build scalable digital banking products. Well, across the globe, SMEs are demanding more than just accounts and loans. They are looking for digital first, frictionless, and scalable banking experiences like instant onboarding, embedded finance, cash flow intelligence, API-led integrations, and personalized offerings. Banks that can build modular, seamless, scalable, and AI-driven products are emerging as true growth partners for SMEs. Well, to share deep, real world insights on this topic, I'm delighted to be joined by Girish Parameswaran, Assistant Vice President and Digital Banking Subject Matter Expert at iExceed. Girish brings extensive experience working with banks across geographies and will share practical perspectives on how institutions are reimagining SME banking. Well, we look forward to an insightful and thought provoking discussion. Let's say if you have any questions, please leave a message in the chat and we will respond to you. Welcome, Grish. So let's get started. And if I may request for a brief background about iExceed. Thank you, Grish. Over
Sure.
to you.
Thank you so much, Saumitra, and a warm welcome to everyone for this webinar. It's definitely, the topic of the year. We have seen a lot of transformation stories happening, and a lot more to come. But before we, get started, for those of you who've not heard about iExceed, we are a fintech organization, been in the industry for more than 10 years. We are currently spread across the globe with offices in US, UK, Greece, India, and our primary offering is, or I would say our niche is all around digital banking solutions. So today we power more than 110 banks across retail customers, SME customers, as well as areas around customer onboarding as well. So that's a brief about iExceed and just getting ready to get kickstarted, Samantha.
Thank you, Grish. So, Grish, just to set the context on SME Banking 2.0, which we are all here to listen and learn about, tell me, we are seeing this massive digital transformation across all banking segments, but SME banking seems to be stealing most of the show. In fact, recently, I was at one of the Gartner's conferences, and there was so much discussion about SME banking, AI impact on SME banking. So, what's fundamentally changing in how SMEs interact with their banks today, and why this movement is so pivotal?
Uh, Rightly put, Samitra. And I would say that uh, the crux of all of this hype is all around the SME user itself, right? So who are the SME users today? They are digital natives. They are running businesses from their mobile phones. They are using cloud platforms for operations. They are very tech savvy. They are making decisions in real time. These SME customers are using, the Ubers and the Amazons and the Netflixes of the world, and they are not comparing banking experiences to other banks, but to these lifestyle organizations. And hence, they expect the same speed, the same agility and personalization when it comes to banking. And that's where it's important to identify how we are able to address this particular segment of SME customers. Now, coming to the SME segment, it's very unique. Neither are they scaled down enterprises, or neither do they fit purely on the retail side. But being so diverse, there is one common thread, one fundamental thing which brings them all together. And that is the remarkable adaptability to change. They are ready to experiment. They are ready to, look for value-added services. And this is the reason that they are able to innovate at a pace at which we are finding this entire industry booming. But paradoxically, for the innovation they bring, for the speed at which they function, they are not served digitally as well. In many scenarios, they even lack the right relationship management. right? This is where they need to have the right products. They need to have the right business acumen that is understood by the banks and the agility with which they can be offered services for them to actually start banking and enjoy the banking experience. It's very simple. They ask for just a few things. Give me convenience wherever I am. Provide me services in an agile way so that it meets my innovation requirements, my capital needs. Products and services, I need them tailored because if you look at the SME segment, you could be a small retailer to a large tech company or a startup. Their needs are very different. So how does a bank adopt to give them these kind of technology and services at a cost which is viable to them is also very important. So this is where the understanding of an SME comes in. And that brings the question to the opportunity as well. For me, if you ask me, I would call this as the Uber moment in SME banking. Reimagine the way that they want to bank. Simple on-demand services, as simple as booking, a ride. How does this happen? And there are fintech companies, there are a lot of organizations who are sitting there to capture the attention of this SME. This is the reality. If we are not able to address the needs of this SME, there are more takers for the pie. And this is where it becomes even more imperative from a digital banking standpoint to address the need of the SME, either technologically, either through collaborations with fintech ecosystems, or at the end of the day, the imperative is very simple. You are late in the journey, you will probably be late in acquiring these customers. If you're early and strategic, you're going to be having a chance at the market leadership. So I thought this would be a good summary to kind of understand why the market is booming in the SME space. And definitely there is a reason for us to go ahead and address this problem through digital banking. Over to you.
Girish, this is very interesting about SME expectations and the Uber movement in banking. But expectations, Girish, and I think you will agree, don't build SME banking relationships, right? So, what are the primary bottlenecks banks face today in acquiring SME customers? And why do you think onboarding remains such a significant challenge today?
When we talk about one of the challenges that we need to address in the overall SME banking 2.0 space, it's about reimagining some of these journeys. And one of the journeys that we definitely need to look at is the very first touch point for the SME, which is the onboarding itself. Today, uh, what we see across regions, and in certain regions, certain banks are doing a fantastic job, whereas in certain regions, they are probably on that maturity curve. Opening a bank account takes a week, 10 days, or even more than that. Think about it. A sole proprietor whose primary objective is to start a business has to worry about how long it's going to take to open a bank account where he needs to receive his money, where he needs to pay his vendors, right? And this is where we need to look at the options of how to address the problem today. When I think about it, I get this question in my mind from an SME. Why does opening a business account take longer than incorporating my own company? It's taking weeks, not days. Right now, this is an interesting channel, and it keeps repeating itself wherever I travel, wherever I talk to people. The problems seem to be the same. But let's understand this a little better, right? There's a lot more behind this question. Well, on one side, we have to understand the frustrations of the user. They have to give a lot of documentation, multiple follow-ups have to happen, but there is no response from either the bank or the partners who they are engaged with. In many cases, they have to visit the branch, so it's a paper-based journey, right? So there's a physical need to move to get to a point. So somebody has to take time off from their work to go and get this whole opportunity of starting a banking account. And due to that lack of your do-it-yourself options, where getting to onboard is going to be through an RM, or it has to be through some only alternative channels. To be fair to the other side of the coin as well, there are lots of reasons why, even if banks have taken some steps, there are delays that happen. Maybe their digitization journey is not as mature, or they are in the process with a lot of legacy systems coming in. It is important to understand that due diligence plays a very important role here because you can have multiple people who are involved in a company. So identifying them, doing their KYC, KYB takes time, may not have implemented a lot of automation. And finally, whenever the onboarding journey starts off, there are lots of information lying in different systems, which have been acquired over a period of time, because of which it's very difficult to get information from a single source. So when you look at these problems, we have to think about an interesting approach of how to address this. Any questions? Any ideas?
So, Girish, talking about the approach, given the diversity within the SME segment from sole proprietors to complex multi-entity organizations, what do you think? How can banks design a digital onboarding framework that balances speed, compliance, and scalability? So, would you like to share your experiences about this in the various markets that and with the customers that you have interacted and visited?
Very valid question, Saumitra. And what I was actually thinking of is actually more of a similar framework, which helps us address this problem. What are some of these steps could be taken immediately, while some of them could be taken in due course. But the idea is probably a framework of, these steps is definitely going to be extremely helpful. The very first problem that we talked about is to meet the SMEs where they are. We know the SMEs are on the move. They probably run shops, they're at a construction site, a tech startup, founder is on travel. So finding time to open a bank account is not going to be easy today. You need to be where the SME is. And not offering an experience for quick onboarding through channels like a mobile or a tablet, or even for that matter today through chatbots, is definitely going to take their attention away from you. So that's an area that is definitely needed to address when we talk about onboarding. The second area is where we don't realize, but there has been a movement across regions in terms of how ecosystems of data are available through regulatory as well as through global data sources. Now, when we talk about this, it's important for onboarding solutions to actually leverage them in a manner that helps both the parties. How does it address the SME? First, a lot of automation comes in. Don't have to go through too many manual inputs. Uh, all they need to do is key in the right information and get the right information out. How does this help the bank? A lot of pre-validated information coming through. So we talked about due diligence times. Basically, we need to crunch that, and ecosystems play a very important role today. Let me give you examples today. You talk about countries such as Malaysia, SSM is there, DBD in Thailand, Ministry of Corporate Affairs in India, DED in the UAE, Company House in the UK. These are all examples of where information about business entities reside, and it's easy to initiate the overall process of the KYB, including the KYC process, right? Now, when I talk about leveraging data ecosystems, another very important question comes, which in many ways is, I would say, a speed breaker in a fast-paced SME onboarding process. It's a very valid question for someone to come and ask, hey, I'm okay, I will take all the data that comes from these sources, but how do I identify the owners? How do I get the hierarchy of these people? That's not something which is easily available, and it's very important for my risk, for my compliance, to make sure that we are able to identify the ownership. Cases may be different for a sole proprietor, but yeah, definitely, mid to large enterprises who are still SMEs may need this identification. Now, this is where we need to rethink the applicability of artificial intelligence, right? It's no longer a buzzword. There are real solutions out there, they're solving real problems as well. And we've identified this as one of the areas where you can use artificial intelligence to actually extract relevant information, contextualize it across a lot of documents. Another area is risk classification of your customers. How do you do that today? Of course, there are processes, there are risk engines, but early on, with the ability of financial statement analysis, reading your MOAs and AOAs, identifying your pattern and transaction patterns, you do have the ability to early on identify some of these, coupled with your document extraction to speed up the process. So technology is really coming in here to help in speeding up the overall process. Okay, and while we talk about technology and process, it does not take away the problem of having a smart workflow within an onboarding application. Okay, why is this important? Today, we talk to so many customers who are in different, maturity cycles of onboarding. The biggest challenge I see is how the relationship managers talk to the operations users, talk to the compliance users, talk to the customers, talk to the partners. All of these are not on a common platform. The workflows are convoluted, automation is missing, automated decisioning is missing. And this is where it's important for us to know that our goal is to meet an STP or a near STP journey. And for that to happen, smart workflows coupled with artificial intelligence for risk assessment makes the overall proposition a lot more stronger. And well, we need to understand this, that SMEs are a very profitable segment today. They are underserved. So while all the automation plays an important role, we cannot take away human advisory from it. So when is the right point where human advisory kicks in to avoid drop-offs from SMEs? When is it that human advisory kicks in to give them the right product fitment? So a combination of what you see here is what makes the onboarding proposition very lucrative, to make sure we are able to address the need of an STP or a near STP onboarding for SMEs. So what I thought is, while we have all of this, maybe we could look at a couple of examples of what we have done to give that picture to our viewers as well. Otherwise, any questions, happy to take them, Saumitra.
Yeah, Girish, that would be wonderful. In fact, well, you outlined, how banks can transform onboarding experience from weeks to minutes through, of course, intelligent automation, extraction, integrations. But once an SME successfully opens an account, how do banks maintain that momentum, that engagement, that retention? Should you like to share some of your experience and examples, on this particular aspect?
Sure. Let me combine your view with an onboarding problem and a banking problem. Okay. So let's take a look at that today. So if I have to initiate an onboarding today, right, the very first thing that we talked about is get the right channel, right? Now, this itself is an aspect of personalization, because you're deciding where your SME is. You're giving him the choice that he wants or she wants to use from an onboarding standpoint, right? So personalization comes in as a very important aspect out there. The other thing that we talked about before we specify on a personalization is a quick view of how automation plays an important role out here. What you see is a quick onboarding, less than 10 minutes for an SME to get onboarded, built-in AI, read everything, decide your hierarchies. At the least, I would say, friction that can be offered in an onboarding process is what you look at. And when you're able to give this impeccable experience in the very first place, that SME is now going to be expecting a lot more. And I think that's where your question is coming from as well, right? So you're able to onboard an account in less than 5 minutes. Now, what happens next is where we talk about how the overall experience for an SME can be, improvised. And that's where we come to the point of something I would call as purpose-built banking. Now, when I say purpose-built banking, the whole idea is that an SME may be a single user or or set of users, but to provide them individual experiences is where it lies the key from the digital banking standpoint. So an important area to address your question is in understanding this SME segment itself, right? So today, small businesses benefit from a very frictionless experience. That's what we have been talking about since the beginning. How do they benefit from that? Number one, identify your user. Pre-built workflows, do they need multi-level approvals, quick access? How is that possible today? How do you identify that segment? So one of the areas that we kind of look at in terms of giving a segmented offering to the SME is by providing them intelligent and adaptive experiences. So let's take a look at what I meant by intelligent and adaptive experiences, right? Various personas are available in the SME user's journey. We are going to look at one. Okay, you could be an operations user, you could be a CFO, you could be a sole proprietor. All of you have different needs and you have to be addressed accordingly. A CFO or an owner may want complete access of all accounts, view their cash flow statements, be able to, immediately set details on his calendar, and eventually, have multi-currency accounts right available for him to make a decision on their vendor payments, right? With complete transparency, complete audit trail, everything, including, of course, approvals and, initiations. But let's look at the ops user. Now, when you talk about an ops user, one of the things that they look at is maybe they don't have access to everything. Their prioritization queues are different. They need to be provided with, task lists or task flows where they're able to identify what's on their list to kind of move things very quickly, quick approvals, complete transparency on the audit trails, right? Things of that nature. And finally, a very important segment of user who is the sole proprietor, uh, always somewhere stuck between, having just a few accounts, business accounts with a lot of, individual accounts, but the ability to toggle between them, bring multiple apps together, they are lost in translation. So we are talking about systems that can be designed and architected, including the ones that we do, where the SME user persona is understood and they are given the right fit on the right channel. And this is where, differentiated experiences tend to play a very important role. The next area that I would say is of utmost importance is the ability to offer omni and omni-channel experiences. The SME is fast, he's agile, he's not going to stop for anyone. So it's more important that, the banks and the channels and the experiences reach the SME rather than the SME reaching something which is more suitable to them, right? So it's important to adapt to these preferences and understand the behavior before the SME starts taking these decisions and moves out of sight, right? How do you address this problem? So again, when it comes to something like this, an important example that I would like to bring here is where you're able to, first of all, address all the channels that you think an SME can have, right? I might have missed a few here, like a chat or a phone call or an email, but those are also channels that are important. But today, the SME is an extremely tech savvy individual, and they want to have their banking experiences on any channel they choose, right? So the SME has very simple expectations. What are the expectations? I need to initiate a transaction when I'm on the road. I need to make a payment because I received a notification to do that. Okay. And when I do that, I want the entire workflow of my payment, my authorization, my notification to happen extremely seamlessly across channels. How do you move transactions between the different channels? And that's a simple example that we want to talk about here, right? There are lots of things we talk about: transparency, being able to receive notifications, stay updated, right? All of this is very important, but this is important across all the channels, not just one. Tomorrow, a new channel comes in. You never know whether mobile phones are going to, move out. We are seeing wearables coming in. It is important to adapt because this SME user is not far away from any other tech savvy user. So that's the whole imperative that we are trying to work around. Okay. As we move ahead, let's proceed. The next step that comes in from a transaction is it goes to an approver. It could be maybe a CFO, it could be an operations user. They need to get the right experience in terms of how they're able to identify a record or a transaction that has come into their queue, how quickly they can act upon it. What happens if they do not act upon it? How do they maintain the SLAs, right? So that entire cycle of omni-channel needs to be controlled, even and should also be, pretty much time bound in terms of how we are able to address it. And finally, we don't want to even take away things like the wearables, where it's become quite useful today that somebody is on a run and there is a payment that they made. They want to know why it happened, or they want to click a button and approve it. So these are the things that are very important to keep ahead of the curve when it comes to addressing this new SME segment and this new SME user. The third area, which I want to spend a little time here, is actually to understand the criticality of it, right? Now, today, what has happened is many SMEs, and their numbers are large, they're huge, right? If you talk about, SME businesses, I think there would be a ratio of maybe 1:10 or 20 compared to corporates when it comes to smaller markets and much larger in larger markets. Now, how do you address them? When you talk about larger corporates, there's a relationship manager. Everything happens through a relationship manager. But if you are going to view the SME as a business entity and not provide the SME with the right relationship management, you are fundamentally losing balance out there, right? So that's where technology needs to play a very important role in what I would term as on-demand advisory. And on-demand advisory plays a very important role in addressing the SME when they need you, at the same time addressing the SME when you realize that there is a need to go back to them. So it meets, both the worlds of the bank as well as the SME. Let's take an example of on-demand advisory right now. So talking about on-demand advisory, there are multiple use cases that you could look for. For example, it's a CFO who views his cash flow, identifies a gap, and wants to know if there is any quick financing options available. Now, one way is to contextualize that and offer it through a campaign. The other way is for him to click a button and call an RM, right? And this is not a phone call that he wants to do. He wants to be within the experience, integrated, identifying, hey, putting a name, putting a face to that name, right? Where the bank is also able to establish that relationship and identify the problem statements that he has. On the other side, he could be an ops user. It could be, an accountant who's trying to identify a disputed transaction. What happens today? They call, they email, visit the branch. They need to have, authentication happening. All of these things tend to happen. How do you reduce that friction? So that's where on-demand advisory tends to play a very important role in the overall effect of premier, of making a relationship management a premium for these SMEs. So while you're not able to offer one-to-one RMs, it's always imperative to offer them the on-demand service, which allows them to get the benefit that they need. So that's where I find this to be a very compelling proposition when it comes to the overall aspects of the SME. Finally, I will not shy away from talking about intelligence and AI that exists today, because when you talk about modern digital platforms, recognizing the needs, using data, having the ability to instantly provide access to contextual, products. All of these are absolutely necessary when it comes to, driving personalization through data-driven approach. So basically, without having the ability to understand how that particular SME needs to be served, without having the entire layer of data on which you run models to identify the transaction patterns, you are only going to meet the SME halfway, right? The other half is where you need to drive the needs of the SME through a lot of insights by understanding their behavior, by understanding their transaction patterns, and then providing them their intelligent recommendations. So these, I would say, are a broad framework of areas where we talk about, personalizing the overall experience for an SME to keep them engaged. Right. So I just want to check if there are any questions. I can, look at addressing them.
Okay, Girish, thank you for this insight. See, SME banking 2.0, what you look at it in different perspective. If you look at it in different perspective, goes beyond products into ecosystems. So, and how can banks evolve from being a service providers to ecosystem orchestrators? Using marketplace banking and embedded finance. So, what is this? What is the scope there? And what you have been hearing on this particular aspect?
Very relevant. Embedded finance, in many people call them invisible banking, uh, is definitely something that today's digital banks have to be aware of, because they play a very important role in that. If I have to talk about ecosystem banking as an additional paradigm in addition to embedded finance, that's also something which is playing a pivotal role in transforming the way the banks do business today, right? So I would definitely call it as an important evolution in the banking space. Now, let me take the opportunity to kind of introduce certain things where I believe ecosystem-based banking as well as embedded banking is a very important area, and what are the strategies that can be applied when it comes to these kind of banking. Let's understand the reality today. What's the reality? The reality is these SME customers, like you, like me, like many other users who are on our webinar today, they cannot be juggling between 5 different apps to finish one transaction, right? They are the same set of people who are quick to adopt, easy to change, ready to experiment. So they are looking at fewer applications because they're already juggling with the likes of a QuickBooks or a Xero or a Shopify. And of course, in addition to that, their bank account. So how are they able to, meet their overall needs? So they are not asking for, more and more applications, right? But they're asking for simpler ways in which they can run their business. They can, make most of the opportunity. And the role that the bank has to play here, and I'm talking specifically in banking context, is they need to be the cockpit where the business and the financing options come together, right? And that's where this critical moment arises and marketplace becomes an important growth catalyst. Okay, so it's important to understand the needs of different kinds of growth. So, the needs of a retailer, the needs of a tech startup, the needs of a construction company may be very different. But there are fintechs out there who are probably offering it. So the idea is how do you connect these two worlds and make it a lot more seamless? So that's the first thing that we need to acknowledge in the first place. The next thing, which is very important, is the need for collaboration. Now, there are certain studies by leading consulting firms where they have analyzed different models that banks have adopted in terms of this whole space of how can they bring within their ecosystem businesses which are core to what they offer, but at the same time, they're having a variation, making it even more lucrative for the SME to stay. So this is one of the models that they follow. Certain banks follow an approach of experimentation where uh, they kind of build, parallel universes, uh, maybe a completely different offering, and they experiment with how the customer is responding to it, and then eventually look at merging products from there and try to, get a greater wallet share of the customer. And then there are the third set of banks where what they typically tend to do is they're very clear. They say, you know what, I don't think I have the infrastructure or the size to really, build new ecosystems, but I'm more than happy to embed my banking and finance workflows into the SMEs day-to-day natural journeys, whether they're making payments through a particular app, whether they're looking for insurance, or they're probably trying to access for finance when they purchase something on a portal, right? So this is where collaboration is extremely key. So we need to see how each of the partners adds value and deliver a connected business proposition. So that's where collaborating with the ecosystem becomes key. Now, this is all a problem statement that we're talking about. The next thing that we again talked about, and the last thing which I would say is important, is the journey towards embedded finance. So you have two options in front of you. You can participate, being the marketplace, bring both the worlds together, or the option is how can you extend that offering by giving your own journeys within the workflow of these SMEs. Now, the question here is more about how do you make this happen? So what is the challenge in making this happen? And this is where it's important to understand that the technology, the architecture, the mindset plays a very important role in being able to, see success on these parameters, because you have to experiment, you have to be able to adapt, you have to be agile to change if something doesn't work out. And what's really going to help you is basically having architectural designs which are extremely modular in nature, designs which are able to understand that they should be adaptable to change, rather than being something which is hardwired. And I would like to bring about the whole concept of something that we use at iExceed as well on this front, which is the overall approach of having adapters rather than having point-to-point connectivity every time. Think of these as standardized components like Lego blocks. You could have adapters which connect to a specific accounting system like a QuickBooks or a Xero or a Tally, or account aggregating systems like Plaid or invoicing tools. Right now, this is an entire layer which is available, and the layer is extendable today. It's not a be all and end all, but it's just the beginning of it. So rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, it's about making incremental changes in a specific layer, at the same time offering the advantage to the SME via the bank's ecosystem. So the bank can adapt to change, which keeps the SME together. Both the parties need what they want, and they stick together, right? So that's the aspect that I look at. And from an SME's point of view, what they are going to look at, or what is the value that the SME draws from this entire approach, is very simple. Create a unified experience, one login, one workspace, but behind the scene, seamless orchestration happens. So these are the areas where I feel, or rather I believe that you can employ strategies from an ecosystem and embedded finance standpoint. And I would like to take a very simple example as we proceed, and this is something that comes to me now and then in terms of how does this expansion typically work? Uh, a typical scenario of an SME is festive season, sudden increase in inventory, right? Warehouse capacity is not available. Obviously, because of the sudden spike, immediate working capital need to pay salaries, working capital to buy products. What do? They try to juggle between various solutions, try to go back to the bank. The bank doesn't respond on time, and because of this, the entire experience is highly scattered. Who is suffering? Of course, the SME is suffering, and that's the opportunity that some of these players are trying to capitalize upon. But by adopting the approach that we talked about with marketplace, as well as enabling architectures for embedded finance, you have the ability and the opportunity to connect the SME directly to these warehouse providers, logistics, bring supply chain finance, financing to picture as well, right? When you have seasonal demands, we talked about the AI and the data layer, which plays a very important role in understanding the insights and immediately offering a product which is suitable to this SME's need. And all these services are integrated. You don't have to switch from one account to the other account. More contextual, easier said than done. But the first steps towards this have to be taken. You have to get the foundation right. And believe me, if you're taking the right steps, this is a reality and this is very much achievable. End of the day, it's a win-win situation for everyone. The SME receives a platform to meet his needs, okay, speed to access and tailored products, and the bank, very simple. He understands the behavior of the SME, he has the data, he understands the insights, and this loop is going to help him service the customer better. This loop is going to help him get a larger wallet share of that SME. So that's where I feel this becomes a transformational journey when it comes to SME banking 2.0. I would like to give a few examples of how we have done it today. I mean, of course, we have done a lot more, and wherever relevant for today, I thought it makes sense to bring this, right? Uh, to look at what we're seeing today, quick integrations with fintechs like QuickBooks, Zoho, or Xero, being able to do account aggregations, very while you can connect with them, do invoice reconciliations, immediately impact your cash flows, identify cash flow gaps. Based on that, understand the pattern and what product needs to be offered, have your journeys embedded in a manner that you're able to meet the needs and the demands of that SME based on the transaction patterns that they have done, right? So some of these are a reality, and they are more, I would say, ecosystem driven banking. But on the marketplace as well, we have done a lot of work where, based on the needs, you basically allow other SMEs to register and be part of the overall marketplace, which helps both parties come together and address a need. So this is my view on how I would believe embedded finance is taking shape from a digital banking standpoint.
Well, thank you, Girish. This was wonderful. Thank you for sharing such valuable insights from your experience. I'm sure this is of great help to everyone listening to you. A big thank you to everyone who has joined and engaged in the webinar. We will be back soon with another insightful sessions, and we'll keep you posted. In case you would like to get in touch with us, please reach out to us at marketing@ixc.com.
Thanks, everyone. And yes, if there are specific questions, you can write to them, and I'll be more than happy to connect and address them. Uh, you know, the rest is look forward to how we adapt to these changes with the SME banking and business banking 2.0.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.